65 yards. The time he fumbles the ball.
You must be out of your goddamn mind. What the hell is wrong with you people?
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Victory Monday on a Tuesday and another episode of Ryno's Rants. Vikings move on to 12-2 with a 30-12 victory over the Chicago Bears last night on Monday Night Football. Winter Warrior whiteout jerseys, the whole US Bank Stadium in white. Big night from everything, and the Vikings walk out victorious against a Chicago Bears team that has 99 problems right now, and winning ain't one of them. But good evening, GMAC. Good evening, Doc. Good evening, everybody in the chat. Welcome, as always. Let's get right down to this, actually. Ant, good evening. Caleb Williams still slumped over the bench. Yeah, this is something, I mean, that, you know, one of the big red flags I had with Caleb Williams. I know I've talked about this dozens of times, especially in the preseason before the draft and everything. One of the issues I had with Caleb Williams is when things don't go his way, he's going to go down there and pout, and you know, his languishing on the bench like he was doing or whatever there last night, and the laying flat on his back out on the field, just not moving just because something didn't go his way. It is what it is. I mean, the Chicago Bears are an absolute dumpster fire right now. I think they might even be in worse shape right now than before they fired Eberflus. The team has quit. It was evident last week against San Francisco. It was evident yesterday. They just had there was nothing. I mean, there once, at least, you know, their defense used to at least be decent. Yeah, now, you know, with Eberflus not calling the defense anymore, their defensive coordinator, his name escapes me right now. It's irrelevant, but he had never called plays before, and now kind of showing why, because their defense is doing nothing. But let's give credit where credit is due, though. The Vikings, you know, we played Chicago in Soldier Field a couple weeks back, and, you know, we were up by 11 at the end of the game. Chicago ended up coming back, tying it, and we had to go into overtime to win the dang thing. They didn't let that happen last night. They came out of the gate right away, and we're up 10-0, you know, in short order. Part of that, of course, being to that point where the Bears, right off the get-go, at their own 39-yard line, go for it on fourth down and do not make it. I don't mind aggressiveness, but you have to be smart when you're aggressive, and that was just stupid, especially at that point in time of the game. If it would have been 4th and inches or something like that, then I don't have a problem going for it. But they had like 3 yards to go to get the first down, and they didn't get it. Absolutely, Doc, and that's the thing. He's a diva. He's, you know, he showed this in college last year when things went wrong. You know, that game they played against Utah, when Utah came in and spanked their ass up one side of the field and down the other. You know, that was when he ran off the field and went and cried with his mom in the stands, and you know, some of this other stuff. It's just, the guy has got a lot of maturing that he's going to have to. The talent is there. I mean, it's absolute. The physical talent is there, but he can't, or at least yet to this point, has not been able to put it together to you know, take it to the next level. Now, again, Vikings defense, all the credit in the world to those guys. Flores knew there was saw the issues that we had against them the first time, you know, letting Caleb get out and run around and things like that. And they made a conscious effort last night to not allow that to happen. They were more selective in their blitzes and how they did it. They were bringing more outside pressure, forcing him to try to get rid of the ball and make that decision early, whether he was going to run or whether he was going to throw. Yeah, Ryan, exactly. 10 of his 13 incompletions were, they were forcing him to throw before he was ready. It took until that touchdown drive that they finally had in the fourth quarter, I think it was, or late third, fourth, whatever it was. To that point, up until that drive, his deepest completion in air yards was 4 yards. That's a long handoff. So kudos to Brian Flores and the defense in general. Jonathan Gennard came up big yet again. I think he had 7 pressures. Most of those coming, of course, they had that rookie playing left tackle last night, Tamagotchi or whatever the hell his name was. Grenard kind of had his way with him most of the night. Had that strip sack, the Cashman recovered. Big night there from the guys that we're used to seeing. Cashman had a good night. Grenard had a good night. Van Ginkel was a little quiet. Kobayashi, Tamagotchi, whatever his name, Pokemon, whatever his name is, I don't know. But Van Ginkel was a little more quiet last night. He got in on a couple of pressures, but couldn't quite get home. Metellus had 10 tackles. Yeah, Metellus was absolutely all over the place last night. And, he was lining up a defensive tackle. I saw at least a half a dozen times last night. It seemed like when they were coming in. Don't know his name. I know his name. It's just, I've just been calling him Tamagotchi since last night. One of the little pocket pet thingies that you used to get back in the 90s that were all the rage or whatever the hell they were. But Colin Cowherd, who's a lot more missed than hit, was saying on the show today that the Chicago is a broken franchise. Yeah, they are. They're absolutely broken. And it starts at the top. The McCaskies have done a very poor job hiring. All I can say is we dodged an absolute freaking bullet with Ryan Poles. I mean, I know a lot of us wanted Ryan Poles, and, the Bears were pointing and poking fun at it, sticking it on our faces that they stole him away from Minnesota, and then the guy goes out there and has that press conference, when he got hired about taking the North and never giving it back and everything else. And all I can say is we dodged a massive bullet with this clown. Then he goes and hires Eberflus right after that, which proved to be a disaster in amongst itself. Now they're going to give him an opportunity to probably hire another guy. Poles is gone too. God, if it was me, I would definitely send him packing. I mean, he had the opportunity at the beginning of this year to hire Jim Harbaugh to come coach the Bears. Harbaugh wanted to go to the Bears. And I've heard that from multiple sources here lately. But no, he decided he was going to stick with Eberflus instead of letting him go, even though they knew last year that Eberflus was not a quality head coach. And they could have had Harbaugh. Now, would Harbaugh have been able to work with Poles and now Kevin Warren, the guy who went in, tried to run the Big Ten into the ground, now the president and head guru of football operations or whatever, Ryan Poles' boss, basically. He's got his hands into this stuff more than he probably should. There's a question whether or not, or who is actually running the show over there now, whether it's Poles or whether it's Kevin Warren. But again, at Chicago, you're hearing rumors of all the guys that they're going to be looking at for head coach. Flores' name has come up. I don't think they hire defensive coach over there. If they're smart, they would not. They'd hire an offensive guy to work with Caleb Williams and try to see if they can salvage something here and turn him into a decent quarterback. But, every time we start looking at some of this stuff like this that we thought was bad back at the time, then we look at what we have now in Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell, and the stars aligned for us and we got lucky, especially in the head coach. But I mean, say what you will about Kwesi's drafting, it, especially early on, was not good. Year 1, year 2, not good at all. But, Kevin O'Connell, after that win last night, Kevin O'Connell became only the second head coach in Vikings history to have multiple 12-win seasons, tying the legendary Bud Grant. Now, if he wins this weekend, he will be the only head coach in team history to win 13 games in more than one season. Now, to be fair to Bud, he played in a time when when the league, was a 14-game season for most of that. So, winning 13 out of 14 is a little bit more difficult, but wasn't there an acting head coach, the Waterboy? Yeah, he was pass game coordinator. I think that was what it was, just some mid-level coach. Then when Shane Waldron got let go, they moved him to offensive coordinator, and that looked like it was actually working there for a couple of weeks. They played that game against us. They got damn close. They should have beat the Lions on Thanksgiving, other than the worst play calling in the history of, or time management in the history of mankind that they had with Eberflus, which actually got him fired. And, now everything has just completely gone off the rails there. Flores will get interviews. He's not going to be hired until litigation ends. I tend to agree with you on that, Ryan, whether that's right, wrong, or whatever. I think that's probably what's going to happen. Selfishly, I hope he doesn't get a head coaching job. I'd like to see him come back for a third year, to see what we can do with the cap space and building off of this year, however this year ends. It's got to be looked at as a successful season when nobody in the national media picked this team to win more than 6.5 games. The over-under was 6.5 games. Now, people like us, those who follow that, actually pay attention to the team, stuff like that, we were more reasonably close to what we're looking at now as far as total wins, but they're even exceeding, what we kind of expected. Hindsight pretty clear usually. Yeah, Doc, that's true. At the time we had no idea. Never wanted anything to do with Eberflus as a head coach, but Poles was one of the guys that I thought would have been a good choice for GM here. He wasn't my guy. I wasn't, pounding the table for him or anything like that, but he was at or near the top, or one of the 2 or 3 guys that I was hoping we got, and I'm wrong. I was wrong. I admit on that. Happy. Yep. Yeah. And that's just it. GMAC. Now, this year is better. We didn't have a ton of draft picks, but the guys that are here look like that they're going to be contributors for years to come. Dallas Turner, that sack he had last night on his knees, that was a hell of a play. I don't care who you are. That was a hell of a play that Dallas Turner made last night. And that's the kind of stuff that we're going to see out of this kid as he develops a little bit more and gets some more playing time. Next year, he's probably going to be the primary backup, because I fully expect Pat Jones to go elsewhere. They're not going to pay him a ton of money when they're already paying guys like Grenard and Van Ginkel. And when you've got young guys in the pipeline like Gabe Murphy, like Bo Richter and stuff like that, that, you know, they're trying to develop from within his depth to come back in. You know, Dallas Turner's your number 3 edge rusher next year without question, in my mind anyway. KOC they need to lock him up. Yeah, that's the thing, Gary. He's not signed past this year. Neither is Kwesi. It's only a matter of time. The Wolves are not going to let Kevin O'Connell walk out that door. I guarantee that. They love him. And you know, we talked about he's already one of the most successful coaches in the history of this franchise. Regular season record wise, anyway, he's only made the playoffs 1 year, but there's no way Kevin O'Connell walks. Even if they, for some reason, would decide that they wanted to move on from Kwesi, Kevin O'Connell's not going anywhere, and he will be coach here for several years. We'll put it that way, at least. He wins us a Super Bowl. The man can coach here until he's ready to retire, as far as I'm concerned. But make Detroit have to sweep us. Discussing act. Good evening. Yes, that is the thing. We are right, and that's the thing that, you know, came out of this weekend, is that the Buffalo Bills took down the Detroit Lions. So now the Vikings and Detroit are tied at the top of the NFC North. Detroit, of course, having the tiebreaker over us from the win earlier. But the Vikings, due to everything that happened this weekend, and with that loss by Detroit, control their own destiny. If the Vikings win out, it does not matter what anybody else does. They will be the number 1 seed and have home field advantage and the first round bye throughout the playoffs. So it's the brass ring is right there for the taking. So, you know, and I think these guys are hungry. They're going to keep, you know, last night was not a fantastic game. You know, from an offensive side of things, I think total yards was like 330 some yards, 340 yards, something like that. Darnold was off last night. I don't know if something happened. I know he smacked his hand on a helmet a couple of times as something was off there, but, you know, he was off on some of those throws. He had 5 or 6 really easy throws that he makes 10 times out of 10, it seems like, that he missed last night. Then, of course, you had that uncharacteristic drop by Justin Jefferson that would have been a touchdown. You know, that stuff kind of happens. They were slow for a while there. You know, they came out sluggish in the second half. They had 2 straight 3-and-out drives. But the defense did its job. They kept him in there, like I was talking about earlier. They kept Caleb Williams contained this time. And they got him flustered early. And you could tell just by the fact that he was just running around in circles back there. He wasn't making his reads. There were multiple times when he was running around back there that I saw guys that were wide open. He could have, you know, had found a hole in the zone, and he just didn't see them. And he was trying to look downfield, and he was trying to do this, and then he would end up either having to throw it away or, you know, he did get sacked a couple of times. Dan Campbell was never a coordinator. No, he was an assistant or something. Yeah, he wasn't. He was never an OC or a DC. No. Don't know what he does now besides pep talks and cheerleading. Goes for an onside kick when you're only down 10 with 12 minutes to go in a game. Goes for it on pretty much every 4th down. Great to see Dallas Turner with that sack. Good to see our young corners get some playing. Yeah, Dwight McGlothern actually was, I believe, the highest ranked player by PFF yesterday. He was he played. He got some playing time yesterday, and he played well, I thought. So I think that's kind of the start where he's going to get some more playing time. Bo Richter played last night. Gabe Murphy did not. I think they're going to kind of start doing some of that rotate where one game they're going to have Gabe Murphy up, next game they're going to have Richter up, unless one of them really gets into a roll, and then they'll, you know, roll with the hot hand, I would think. But remember the Childress years, he was considered top coach. That was the problem. And he talked a very good game, and that was the problem when he came in. And the Wilfs and they had Fran Foley, who also talked a good game, and then he made it through the draft, and they fired him because they found out he lied on his job application and his resume. But yeah, then Brad Childress came in, and talked the big game and everything else, and he was going to Green Bay after he interviewed here, and the Wilfs got spooked and thought, oh my God, we got to hire this guy before Green Bay gets him, and then Green Bay ended up hiring McCarthy, and we ended up with Childress. No, I'm not saying that I want to move on from him. There are people that do. I want to keep him, David. I just want to make that clear. I was just putting that as a for instance, that if for some reason they decided they wanted to move on from him, they're still not moving on from Kevin O'Connell. But I fully believe that Kwesi will get a contract extension as well. I think they like what he's doing. I mean, he's done a masterful job with the cap and the free agency stuff that he did this year. I mean, this is one of the best free agent classes probably in team history when you look at it, just in the contributions they've been getting. Aaron Jones, Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, Blake Cashman, Shaq Griffin, Stephon Gilmore, for the most part. I mean, they're getting quality play out of all these guys, and Kwesi is absolutely to be commended for that, getting these guys in here to, help plug the holes. Seemed like Turner started getting more playing time after fans started questioning. I don't know I think that's more of just a coincidence, GMAC, than anything. I think what led to that a little bit more was the fact that Pat Jones was dinged up there for a couple of weeks, and Turner got more playing time because of that. And he started making the most of that opportunity, which you need to do when you get those chances, especially as a rookie, whether you're a first-round rookie or a seventh-round rookie or an undrafted free agent. And he started making that, as he's earning playing time. And that's how you get into that, especially when you're in a crowded room, with the amount of edge rushers that we do have. Dan Campbell's special teams coordinator. Okay, yeah, I'd forgot about that. I know he was tight ends coach or whatever for the Saints there before that too. So McGlothern should be really good next year. It's a very small sample size so far. I've been a big fan of the kid ever since preseason. I think he's got potential. Right now, he's one of two cornerbacks or three cornerbacks I think we have under contract for next year. So yeah, he's going to have his opportunities. I mean, we're going to obviously have to get some more cornerbacks, but can't believe we let Tomlin out the door. The Tomlin thing, nobody expected Mike Tomlin to get a head coaching job when he did. This was the one time when the Rooney Rule thing actually paid off. They brought in Tomlin because they needed to satisfy, interviewing a minority coach for the position. They had it in their mind they were going to hire somebody else. And when Tomlin went in there, he just blew them away with his interview. And that's what got him the job. Skull for Life, good evening. Skull for Life, Barber, good evening. Skull 12-2, about to be 13-2. I sure the hell hope so. And it's not current pro TE coach and interim head coach and Joe. I know he was interim coach when Philbin got fired. Good evening, Dan. New Orleans assistant head coach and tight end coach. Yeah. Turner's a true pass rusher. Hopefully we turn him loose. Yeah, and that's one thing that when he did get some playing time earlier, that they were dropping him off in coverage a little bit, which is not his strong suit. He's a pass rusher. He's not a coverage linebacker. So yeah, you do have to use him correctly. And and to their credit, now when he's getting in there, he's starting to make plays. He had a tackle for loss and a sack yesterday. Had a couple of good plays last week against Atlanta. So he's getting there, and he's going to be a big part of this team going forward. Maybe not, if not this year, definitely in the next couple of years. I know, there's a lot of hype around him, and for good reason. We gave up a lot of draft capital to get him, but we just got to give these guys some time. And you can't, if they don't blow up and be freaking JJ Watt after the first 3 games, that you can't declare him a bust and then wash your hands of him. Is Gino playing for Seattle this weekend? Sounds like it's trending that way. Mike McDaniel today said that he expects him to practice, and hopefully he's going to be good to go for Sunday. Even if he does go, I don't know if he's going to be 100%. If Gino does not go and it's Sam Howell, this game gets a lot easier. Sam Howell looked like crap against the Packers. To be honest, the entire Seahawks team didn't look that great against the Packers, but Childress is only here for a year. That's exactly right. And again, like I said, nobody expected Tomlin to be a head coach that quickly. He was a first-year defensive coordinator. I mean, it's not like he was the hot name, the Ben Johnson of his era kind of thing, that was wanted by dozens of teams. So, Dan, good evening. Will be a factor down the stretch, and he's absolutely great point. Disgusting act. When we get into the playoffs, and we are in the playoffs. I mean, whether we are the 7 seed or the 1 seed, we are in the playoffs. We will play in the postseason. We clinched that when Seattle lost to Green Bay on Sunday. So, any fresh bodies that we can get and have in there at that point in time are going to be beneficial. Hate playing in Seattle. Yeah, I'm not a fan of it either. And it's a place, I think, what is the last 5 times we've been there, we've lost. So it's not a place that the Vikings have traditionally played well. We can turn that around. This is a perfect time to turn that around. We got to go in there with a sense of urgency. We got to play a full game and do what we do, and take care of the ball. Now, we did have that interception last night. On a 4th down, Darnold got rushed and just threw it up. Not necessarily the worst. It was a bad throw. He shouldn't have made it. But, it's like a short punt there, basically. But the problem is we were in field goal range. Probably should have taken the points there. I'm not going to be too mad about not kicking the field goal. I don't mind the aggressiveness there, but I didn't really care for the throw. They should have had another option underneath, whether you're flaring Aaron Jones out of the backfield or you got Hawkinson out there someplace. It would have made more sense than the throw that they made. But like I said, Darnold was off last night. But the fact that we can go out and still win a game by 18 points when your offense did not play their best game by any means, that should say something. Maybe it'll be Jaron Hall. Yeah, no, Jaron Hall is not going to be starting for him. Gino plays, won't be able to face our pass rush, hit him early enough. Yeah, that's a very good point, Gary. Gino can move around. He's not considered very, a super mobile quarterback. He's kind of in that Kirk Cousins vein as far as mobility. He's probably a little more mobile than people give him credit for, but he's a pocket passer. He doesn't like to get out and run. He's not a guy like a Jaden Daniels or a Caleb Williams or somebody like that who's, going to look to tuck the ball and run with it at any point in time. But who led the NFL in attempts and interceptions last season? That's a very good question, GMAC, and I do not know it's Sam Howell. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I knew Sam Howell was close up there in interceptions, and that's who would be your starter if Geno Smith cannot go, or Smith tries to go and can't. Sam Howell is their number one backup. So, like I said, that game becomes a whole different ball of wax if Sam Howell is playing versus Geno Smith, I think. Bob, good evening. Think about Chester Taylor 95-yard run. Yeah, I remember that game. When you think about playing, yeah. Geno can't dodge a wrench. I don't know about dodging a wrench. I just hope he can't dodge a Van Ginkel or a Grenard or a Turner. I think that there's some definite opportunities there for the Vikings to get some pass rush in there and try to get some sacks. Now, the sacks haven't been coming as frequently the last few weeks as they were earlier in the season. Teams have made adjustments to this. They're trying to get the ball out quicker and stuff. We're getting pressures. We're just not getting home on it. Like I said, Van Ginkel, I think, had 8 pressures last night, I believe it was. 8 or 9, something like that. He had, a lot. But, that was all going against that rookie left tackle. Can't dodge a Turner. Yep. Aaron Jones last night picked it up, played very well. We kind of got away from the run game for a while there, which I think in no small part was kind of the problem with when the offense sputtered coming out of the half. Addison and Jefferson, they were both like 74, 76 yards, somewhere they're right about in that same range again that they were before. Of course, Jefferson had the touchdown catch and then had that beautiful catch nearing the end of the game there before we put that last touchdown up to get the ball, down close to the goal line. Looking at, I think it was Chase Daniel when he does his film study breakdown stuff, after every weekend, had it on there, and he broke down that particular throw that Darnold made to Jefferson on it. When Darnold let that ball, go back and look for this if you can, because it shows the confidence that Sam Darnold has in not only his ability, but in Justin Jefferson to be where he's supposed to be. When Sam Darnold let that ball go, Justin Jefferson was not even in the camera frame. And he threw it in between 4 defenders on a absolute rope to complete to Jefferson to get it down to the, whatever it was, the 1 or the 2 yard line right in there. But, that throw was an absolute laser. And that just shows, how good Sam Darnold is as a quarterback when he's got that confidence and when he's, gotten into a system that he can thrive in, and that, the players have his back, the coaches have his back, things that did not happen, especially when he was in New York. The first time something went wrong, everybody turned, the fan base turned their back on him and started wanting him, tried to run him out of town and all this other, how the whole story of how that worked. But, Kevin O'Connell, again, getting that reputation as the guy, if you are a quarterback in the NFL and, especially somebody who came into the league with, high aspirations and high expectations, and you've struggled due to, your situation, Kevin O'Connell is showing that he's a guy that can, help turn your career around. He unlocked a level out of Kirk Cousins that we hadn't seen before and are not seeing again now. I saw today that Atlanta would not commit to Kirk Cousins even being their starter this weekend. It's possible that they may be making a switch to Michael Penix sooner rather than later here, just because Kirk has played so awful. We got Daniel Jones, who, after getting cut by the Giants, had the opportunity to go be a starter elsewhere. The Raiders literally said, we want you to come in here and be our starter because Aiden O'Connell is hurt and Gardner Minshew's hurt, all this other stuff. He would have started for the rest of the season for the Raiders. And instead of doing that, he said, no, thank you, and came here to be on the practice squad just so that he could work with Kevin O'Connell, knowing that he's got deficiencies in his game and he's got stuff that needs to be fixed. And that he's here. And I mean, my guess is Daniel Jones is the backup quarterback next year to JJ McCarthy, but we'll get into that at a different point in time. Get one more win out of Sam, and I'm going to get on the soapbox. I'm staying off the soapbox, Doc, for until the season is over, whenever that is, whether it is, in January or whether it's in, the middle of February with him standing on the stage holding that Lombardi trophy with purple and gold confetti falling down all over the place. O'Connell schemed up 3 receivers all within 10 yards last night, wanted Sam to get rid of it pass. He did. And that was, and that's to KOC's credit. They're working on some of this. They know that right now the offensive line is a liability. Cam Robinson had a terrible night last night. I think he had like 5 or 6 penalties just on his own. Vikings had 10 total, so that's a lot more than they've had the last few weeks. Blake Brandel, I don't know what the hell has happened with Brandel. When he started off the beginning of the season, he was playing well. I mean, he wasn't, Pro Bowl level left guard, but he was sufficient and he was doing a decent job. The last few weeks, he has been a liability on that left side. On the right side, of course, Ed Ingram playing so badly, he got benched. He's even been a healthy scratch a couple of times. Dalton Reisner has played better than Ingram did. Of course, that's a very low bar to hit, but and Reisner didn't have that great of a game last night either. He got beat a couple of times. Garrett Bradbury is Garrett Bradbury. He's never going to be anything more than he is right now, and that's not great. I fully believe center has to be at the top of our priority list, or one of the top ones for the priority list for 2025. You got to find somebody else that can plug up that middle, because Bradbury, for as smart as he is and being able to call the coverages and the schemes and all that stuff up at the line, doesn't do you any good if he can't keep anybody out of the backfield. Problem with Sam as our quarterback. Why trade up for McCarthy? They're not going to get rid of McCarthy, and I'm just going to go with the trusting the plan. If you listen to when Wes Phillips talked last week, you read between the lines on that, and they're still the plan is still what the plan has always been, and that's JJ McCarthy. Now, aside from all that, Sam Darnold's going to command a pretty nice contract next year. People are saying all that, 3-year, $100 million contract like Baker Mayfield got. I think Darnold will get more than that. He's going to be in demand, and he's going to, and he should. The guy has earned it this year. It's not going to be here, I don't think, but film is going to suck for the O-line. Yeah, they need to get their ass chewed. I don't know what you've got this thing, Ant, with Daniel Jones about you're thinking he's going to go in there and be the starter. He's going to be here for the backup. Daniel Jones has talent. He was I think he was picked 6th overall when the Giants took him. But he's another one, and was it John Mara? I think the owner of the Giants last year, I believe it was, had made the comment that they've done everything possible to ruin Daniel Jones. And it's the same thing as like Sam Darnold. Where he's been before, it's not the right situation. And I'm not saying that Daniel Jones could come in and do what Sam Darnold has done this year, because I don't know that he could right now. I don't think so. But if he's in here as a backup to JJ McCarthy, realistically, the hope is he never sees the field, because McCarthy's, unless it's a mop-up duty or something like that, because you want McCarthy to be out there and be your guy. But, so I have no problem with Daniel Jones being backup quarterback. Cheap, decent free agent quarterback, and those things don't exist. You don't get decent for cheap anymore in the NFL. It just doesn't happen. And, Daniel Jones, I have no problem with him being the backup quarterback next year. Nick Mullins is a free agent. There's a good chance. I mean, they could probably have him back if they wanted. I've been hearing a lot of stuff that they really like Brett Rippon. Some of the stuff he's doing with the scout teams and things like that. He's got starter experience. He started a few games this league. I think, like I said, I've been hearing stuff that they really like what he can do, and I think they're going to want to keep him around next year if they can, as probably the third quarterback yet. But there's something there that Kevin O'Connell really likes. So, I'm not worried about the quarterback room next year. Stick with the plan. Norris, I agree with that 100%. There's risk involved if you decide not to bring Sam Darnold back. But like I said, I don't want to turn this into that whole discussion right now, because I want to enjoy what's going on right now. We will worry about the quarterback situation once the year is done. We're playing with house money now, but man, we've got the opportunity to go out there and grab that brass ring and take it. And let's go do it. Let's shock the fucking world. Let's do it. Nobody expected this team to go. And let's go win that damn thing. We can play with anybody as long as we don't shoot ourselves in the foot. This team can play with anybody. Can't teach size and strength. Bradbury doesn't have those things. It's not necessarily size, GMAC, because there's plenty of guys in the league that play in the interior line that are around the same size as Bradbury is. The problem with Bradbury is leverage. He doesn't get low enough, and he can't get up in that leverage. And you get those big guys that get up underneath him. And then the smallest guy in the world can push the biggest guy on the field if you get the right leverage on the guy. And that's the problem. Bradbury loses that leverage battle more often than not. And when he does that, he gets forklifted into the third row. Per Rappaport, what was per Rappaport disgusting act? I missed the January 12th or February 12th. Oh, okay. Cousins is headed to the bench. Yeah, I kind of figured this was coming. When they didn't commit to it earlier today when asked about it, they said, "Oh, we just got back. We got to, haven't had time to think about things and whatever all else." If there was no question about it, he would have said, Kirk Cousins is our starting quarterback. He will be the starting quarterback this weekend. When they didn't come out and say that, I thought it was a very good chance we're going to see Michael Penix. Now, that might make Atlanta a scarier team, depending upon what Penix can do. They love him down there the way it sounds. And, the guy has got a fucking rocket for an arm. You saw that when he was at Washington. He doesn't deal with interior pressure all that well, so that it'll remain to be seen how he handles that now that he's in the pros. But, interesting things going on down in Atlanta. Grass wasn't greener. No, it sure wasn't. Sam wins us a Super Bowl, build him a statue and free bar tab for life anywhere in the state. That I will agree with. Whether he stays or whether he goes is irrelevant. You put a statue outside of US Bank Stadium right next to a statue of Kevin O'Connell, and yeah, that man drinks for free and can probably give him the key to the state. He can get whatever he wants, wherever he wants, whenever he wants it. Cam Robinson was a good trade. It absolutely was, Dan. I mean, he had a bad night last night, and we talked about that a little bit ago. But when you're, and this isn't even arguably top 3 or 4 left tackle in the league, and Christian Darrisaw goes out and you replace him with Cam Robinson for as cheap as what we got him for, that is the best possible option that the Vikings could have done at that point in time, especially with the limited draft capital that they had to go after somebody. I mean, Robinson's a good left tackle. He's not all pro material, but he's good enough. And especially in the scenario that we're in, and I said, hopefully last night was just a bad night for him. And, he comes out this week and plays well again. I think he will. It's just last night was an off night for guys, and that, but like I said earlier, when you have an off night and you can still win by 18 points, you're doing something right. So Sam is not going back to the Jets, Anthony. I'm willing to bet money on that. He's not going to go back. He's going to have an opportunity to go where he wants to, and he's not going to want to go back there after the way he was treated when he first came up, especially by the fan base. It's going to be a different regime in the, for the coaching staff, but I don't see him even wanting to go there. Where I think the best fits for where Darnold probably goes next year, if Stafford decides to hang it up, the Rams. I think the Rams are a prime spot for him. And I don't know if San Francisco's off the table. They have to just make a decision at the end of the year whether or not they're going to pay Brock Purdy. And, I saw something earlier this week that people are talking Brock Purdy's going to command in that 55 plus range, kind of where Jordan Love and Tua Tagovailoa and those guys all are sitting right now. Would San Francisco decide that they would want to pivot back to Sam Darnold at $40 million versus Brock Purdy at 55? If you gave me the option of Brock Purdy at 55 or Sam Darnold at 40, I'm taking Sam Darnold at 40. Raheem is benching Kirk Cousins. Breaking news right on here. Disgusting Act. Our Action News reporter on the scene. A disgusting act with the latest out of Atlanta. Kirk Cousins headed to the bench. Definitely big news there. Thank God we'd let him walk. I was talking to somebody about this the other day and actually having a civil Kirk Cousins discussion, about what would have happened if Kirk would be back here. Would the Vikings be 12-2 right now if Kirk Cousins was the quarterback? I don't think they would. They would probably be, 9-5, maybe 8-6. Hard to say. But, going down there, is it the fact that is Kirk still not completely healthy off of that Achilles? It's his plant foot. It's not like it's, with Rodgers, it wasn't his drive foot. It was his back foot. With Kirk, it was the other way around. So is there something there? Maybe. Is it the fact that he's no longer in Kevin O'Connell's system? And I mean, Atlanta's not doing Kirk a ton of favors down there. I mean, they got one of the better running backs in the league, and they're running almost no play action. And we all know Kirk, play action is where Kirk Cousins excels. It's where he always has excelled. Better coach than anyone had besides last year in San Francisco. Yeah. Rippon would be QB3. He's not. I don't think he's going to be the primary backup at all. KOC's man, if he thinks JJ's our quarterback, then that's our quarterback. And yet, yep. And that's the thing, Gary. The fans can speculate all they want to, and but this is the plan. This was the plan going in. Sam Darnold knew the plan. Kevin O'Connell knew the plan. Kwesi knew the plan. That, that's why they only signed Sam Darnold to a 1-year contract this year, is because the whole plan was for opening day 2025 for JJ McCarthy to be the starting quarterback for this team. Now, whether they deviate from the plan or not will remain to be seen, but it just seems to me like that's what they're still going with that plan. And, that's the thing. You stick with the plan, and they better make a move if they want to make it to playoffs. He might. And right now, yeah, they got to catch Tampa Bay if they want to make the playoffs, because they're not going to make. I don't think that they're going to make the playoffs as a wild card. Right now, the only team, you're gonna have 2 wild cards coming out of the North. And in the combination of Minnesota, Green Bay, or Detroit, 2 of those 3 teams are going to be wild cards, unless Green Bay completely shits the bed and loses out or something. Washington, I think, is they're probably going to get a wild card spot, so that takes all your spots right there. You're going to have to win the division out west to get in, I think, and you're going to have to win the division in the South to get in. Right now, Tampa Bay has the lead, but Atlanta has the tiebreaker over Tampa because they beat them twice this year. So don't just find a replacement left tackle. Absolutely, getting back to that, we've kind of gone off on a lot of tangents here tonight. But yeah, back to that. Yeah, that's the kind of moves that you see Kwesi making, that says that this guy is the right guy for this job. And, to the point we were talking about earlier, the comment I threw about if they're deciding to move away from Kwesi, I think that would be a terrible idea. And stuff like this is why the free agency this year, so I fully believe shortly after the season ends that both Kwesi and KOC will get contract extensions. Eight penalties since we got him. Yeah, and 5 of them were last night. So yeah, I mean, it's Atlanta is not technically out of the playoffs. No, Doc, they're not. They can still catch. They're only a game behind Tampa, so they can still catch Tampa and win the division. Pretty much the only way they're going to get in, I think, unless, like I said, if Washington and or Green Bay shit the bed for the rest of the, and lose out, then they might be able to sneak in as a wild card. I haven't looked that far into the tiebreakers and all that other stuff, but it's not. Yeah, I don't know that they would to begin with, but Darnold's it's not like they're going to be the only team that's going to throw money at him. And if I'm Darnold, there's no way in hell I'm going back to New York. The Jets can go fuck themselves if I'm Sam Darnold. I mean, the way he got treated there at the end and stuff, no, abso-fucking-lutely not. He was, their quarterback for 2 years. Then they go and draft Zach Wilson to take his job from him, and then they end up trading him to Carolina. And no, if I'm Sam Darnold, you got to be somebody like Kirk Cousins who doesn't give a shit about any of that other stuff and is only concerned about the money to even consider something like that. I mean, you never say never, but I would rank the Jets at the very bottom of landing spots for Darnold. And Darnold's going to want to go someplace, if you've got somebody who's in that McVay coaching tree, as an offensive-minded guy, And that's why I say that the Rams are the perfect landing spot. And to Northview's point right there, that would be the absolute best spot Sam Darnold could land outside of sticking with Minnesota, I think, is with the Rams and McVay. And again, the other one would be with Shanahan, back of Shanahan in San Francisco, if they decide they don't want to pay Brock Purdy. But street named after you, and Kirk's not fully recovered. I mean, Kirk has looked very good in some games, and he's looked like garbage in many. I mean, even just look when we played him last week, that first drive or so, he looked sharp. He looked like the Kirk that we saw here the last couple of years. But then when Dallas Turner flattened him on that one throw, it wasn't a sack. He got the ball off, but he got flattened. After that, he wasn't the same. And that's the whole thing. Kirk, something gets in Kirk's head and it messes with him. And I think that's a lot of what they're seeing down there. And I think that the drafting of Michael Penix shortly after they signed him to that contract, I think that has been in Kirk's mind a ton this year. I mean, as we know, Kirk Cousins does not like to have that person breathing down his neck. That's why we had guys like Sean Mannion as the fucking backup quarterback for many years while Kirk Cousins was here, because Kirk has a fragile ego. There's no other way around it to put it. He's concerned about protecting his stats and making his numbers look good, but he does not like to have somebody breathing over his neck. He's carried that forever. He had that in Washington when it was him and RG3 going back and forth, and the fact that the Redskins wouldn't commit to him long term. And then when it came here, it was the same thing. We can't have a good backup quarterback behind him because, of the whole fragile ego. And so we ended up with like what we had last year, where we had the Josh Dobbs, Nick Mullins and all that stuff just kind of filtering in behind there. A-Rod is a full year from it. He looks broken too. Problem with Rodgers is what, 41 years old. I mean, Rodgers was washed before he had the AC or that Achilles tear. Rodgers should have retired 3 years ago, I think. But the problem is Rodgers loves the spotlight and loves the attention. So he's going to milk it and that's why he went to the Jets, because, he was going to go there and, everybody's going to talk about him, and he's going to go on Pat McAfee's show every week, and he's going to, all this, that, and everything else. Everybody's going to pay attention to him because he's in New York. And then, this year he's not even a shell of himself anymore. See Kevin O'Connell getting a contract extension before the playoffs start. Players and fans, that'd be a huge boost. That's a very good point, Gary. I hadn't really thought too much about that, but it's possible. Absolutely, it's possible. Especially if they secure the number 1 seed and get that bye week, then it wouldn't surprise me one bit to see them get that contract extension during the bye week, and then let's fucking go at that point. But he just texts, Kirk's officially been benched. Yeah, disgusting act. Said he saw it from Rappaport too. So might want to go to an AFC East team just to torture the Jets. The problem is, where are you going to go in the AFC East where you can do that? The Dolphins, McDaniel down there, he is a Shanahan McVay disciple, but they just gave Tua a ton of money. So unless Tua retires because of his concussion crap, he's not going to go anywhere. So that one's out. New England just drafted Drake May, and they need a lot of help, so that's out. Buffalo has Josh Allen, that's out. So they're the Jets are the only team that are in the AFC East that would even be looking for a quarterback right now. Turner looked like he was shot out of a cannon and that dip around. Yeah, Dallas Turner had a very good game last night, and that's what we can expect to be seeing out of him. I think more and more going forward. Thunk Rogers said he could chase some of Brady's passing records, so he didn't retire. There's some of that too. I think it's Aaron Rodgers is an absolute narcissist. He loves him some Aaron Rodgers, and he wants to be part of that. I don't think he's going to retire this year because he loves the spotlight so much. He's going to have to move on and go someplace else. But it may be at this point where I don't see anybody that's going to go out and, throw money at Aaron Rodgers at 42, 43 years old. Please come be our starter. It's not like Brady going to Tampa Bay. If Rodgers is going to go someplace, I think he would end up being a backup, and I don't think his ego would handle that. So it's very likely that, Rodgers will be done after this year. Nympha, good morning. But yeah, we kind of got off on a big tangent. We barely talked about the game yesterday. We talked about everything else under the sun, but that's why I love this. Why I love doing these live shows, because we talk about what you guys want to talk about. This is a group of people sitting around at the bar having a beer and talking football. Great intentions of going in depth into the game yesterday, but we end up talking quarterbacks. We end up talking everything else, a lot of league stuff, which I enjoy talking that too. So, this is your guys' show. We'll talk about whatever. But we've been going on here for over an hour now. So, Josh, we'll bring that up. I forgot, Jerry. Yeah, mine's up in the fridge. I forgot to put it in there last night. I had to take it out of the box and put it in the. Those two rushing touchdowns last night. How about that? Aaron Jones getting one, and Cam Akers also getting one. One that was even more impressive than that, I thought. You guys remember that there was that third down and short last night? We actually ran the ball. We played big boy football, ran the ball, and got the first down. That's something I've been asking for and begging for all season because we rarely see it. It's 3rd and 1. We're going to go line up 5 wide with an empty backfield. Last night on one third down in particular, we lined up. We brought in 2 tight ends. We handed the ball to Aaron Jones. We got a first down. Did it again. Cam Akers did it too. I think it was a little bit longer, but throw some of those wrinkles in there and start doing some of that stuff. Put something new on tape that they got to pay attention to. Now, granted, the interior line especially isn't built for that. The brotherly shove, tush push type stuff, or the runs up the middle that are going to get to short yardage when you need it. But you got to show that you can do it once in a while. No stupid double reverse halfback pass. Yeah, that's that one was too cute. We don't need to be doing that kind of stuff. Thank God Brian O'Neill's going to be fine. Yeah, we got lucky there. KOC said today that his knee is a little sore, but he fully expects him to practice this week. Probably, he'll be limited, but fully expects him to be able to go on Sunday against Seattle. But yeah, that's really all I've got for tonight. How did he not tear something? That's a very good question. We got extremely lucky there. He got contorted, very badly. That had, MCL, ACL, something, written all over it. But thank God it didn't. And he should be good to go. Ryan Wright, I haven't heard anything. KOC didn't really talk anything about that, so I assume he's okay. I know it was blocked, and that's why they didn't call the roughing the punter on there, but there still should be some sort of protection for a punter like that. He got absolutely flattened. I mean, if the ball hadn't been touched by the defender, that's a 15-yard penalty right there for roughing the kicker. But since the ball got touched, it's not. I mean, that's one of those penalties that I don't necessarily agree with, really. But anyway, with that, thank you guys for joining tonight. Had a lot of great discussions on a lot of different topics. I mean, it became a smorgasbord of football discussions tonight, and enjoyed the hell out of it. We got a big crowd in here tonight, still going through the whole thing. With that, shout out to all you guys. You make the show what it is. Couldn't do it without you. Shout out to Nympha and the Filipino fan club over there halfway around the world, just waking up this morning. Shout out to my wife upstairs, who may or may not be watching. I think she is, but and with that, I believe we're going to go Saturday night this week for the main show. It'll be normal time. It'll be like 7:00 show. Not 100% sure Friday or Saturday yet, but I think Saturday. So just stay tuned for that, and we will keep you guys updated. And with that, you guys have a great Tuesday, and we got 3 games left in the regular season. We got Seattle this weekend. Let us go bring this to 13-2, and that number 1 seed and the NFC North is still within our grasp. So with that, have a great night, guys. Skol Vikes.